Hammond Common Council for October 13th, 2020 is called to order. Pledge of Allegiance.
Nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Carmen, roll call.
Alexander.
Present.
Spitali.
Here.
Venez.
Here.
Kelwinski.
Here.
Torres.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Rakos.
Here.
Warple.
Here, let the record show 9 present, 3 in person, 6 by Zoom, 0 absent. At this time, I entertain a motion to suspend the rules and let the mayor speak. Although the mayor can speak at any time during the meeting. So, Mayor, you wanted to address the council?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to talk about the budget proposal we've submitted to the City Council for first and second reading today. And I'm also here to discuss the water rate proposal that was given to us by the Hammond Water Department. So I want to point some things out in regards to our budget. So we had some headwinds, as everybody knows, in 2020. That's no surprise to anybody. During 2020, because of the impacts of the pandemic, we had a 38% decrease in our gaming revenue to date. We've had over $50,000 decrease in permits and fees, which is a 10% reduction. This year, we've had a $120,000 drop in service sales and fees, which is a 40% reduction from last year, from the forecast budget, excuse me. We've had a 20% drop in park revenue, $120,000. Obviously, when things like the Sportsplex are shut down, we're not making money as we anticipated and built into our budget. MVH funds, which were a relatively stable source of revenue, which get paid for ultimately from gasoline taxes across the state of Indiana, are down over $600,000 this year, which is an 18% drop in what we anticipated. $425,000 drop in local option income tax money. That was for public safety and for economic development, which is a 7% drop. These all make sense, and these are some of the headwinds that we've been facing this year in preparing a budget for next year. Despite those headwinds, I'm proud to report that we have turned in a budget to you with 2.29% reduction from the 2020 levels, 2.3% reduction. In this budget we've given to you, we've cut 21 positions citywide, 10 in police, 5 in fire, City Hall security guard, 1 in code enforcement. The City Council removed a secretarial position, and we cut 3 positions in the Department of Public Works for 21 total positions cut. It's about $2.5 million in savings right there. Nobody is losing their jobs. These are positions that we're choosing not to fill, excuse me. In regards to the police cuts, this is a continuing cut from last year. We cut positions because, if you'll remember, we had 16 Hammond police officers, fully uniformed police officers, working in the Hammond City Jail for decades, forever. And we looked critically at it a few years back, and when we're paying well over $100,000 average to each Hammond police officer, it didn't make a lot of sense to me that we had these high-paid police officers guarding prison inmates when we can get correction officers to do the same for half, if not more, savings. So we hired ultimately 16 civilians to replace these police officer positions, and we eliminated those positions as they became available, which resulted in our staffing cuts in the police department. Hammond Fire Department, we could cut 5 more positions and still maintain our staffing levels. I would also like to point out that college-bound expenses in the 2021 budget, $1.1 million of it are slated to be paid for by TIF, which is something we did last year, which saves us about 25% of the cost of the college-bound program. We've had the Hammond Water Department and the Hammond Sanitary District agree to pay $500,000 more each in pilot payments to us for $1 million in new revenue there. They already paid $1 million, so Hammond Water and Hammond Sanitary both pay a $1.5 million payment in lieu of taxes each year to the city of Hammond. Hammond Port Authority will only pay $1 million. We built 2% pay raises into the budget for city employees. Right now, we're in the process of negotiating with the Teamsters, the police officers, the firemen, and the engineers. I anticipate that if there's no 2% pay raise, that we'll have enough room to accommodate it in the budget, and we'll work with the council to then amend the budget if it becomes necessary. But right now, we built 2% pay raises in for the city employees. Interesting facts about our budget. Our public safety budget, police and fire, is $55 million. We only received $33 million in property tax revenue. So our property tax revenue from all of the businesses and all the citizens in our city, they pay all of their property tax. If we took 100% of that and applied it to the cost of our police department, our fire department, we'd still be $22 million short. So how do we gap this $22 million hole? That doesn't pay for one other city employee. Doesn't pay for any of you, doesn't pay for any of my staff, anybody that works in City Hall, anybody that works in parks. We still have to pay for all that stuff, and we're $22 million upside down just with public safety. Our largest line items in the budget, Hammond Police Department's $32 million operation. Hammond Fire Department's a $23 million operation. Our city self-insurance fund is $12 million. That's obviously all of the medical claims for all the city employees and their families. That's also insurance, settlements, litigation, things of that nature. Our water revenue is slated to increase in 2021 from $8 million to $10.5 million. This is water revenue from Illinois communities. It used to go to the Hammond Water Department. One contract in particular is a Calumet City contract. I am working with the water department right now to make sure that that contract, like all other Illinois contracts, comes to the city of Hammond. That results, if the water department agrees to that, that'll result in a 25% increase in water revenue to our budget. Goes from about $8 million a year to about $10.5 million a year, which I think a 25% increase in revenue is a good thing. Keep in mind, this is something I'm real proud of, this line in particular. When I took over as mayor, we made less than $100,000 a year in water revenue from Illinois communities, and it's going to be $10.5 million in this budget this year. That's something I'm proud of. We got sued in federal court, and we stayed tough and did the right thing, and we've turned that into a major revenue source for the city of Hammond. Take that $10.5 million, 10 years from now, I bet you Hammond's water revenue is more than Hammond's gaming revenue. That's the future. That's where we need to head. Water revenue is climbing, gaming revenue is shrinking. So let's keep that in mind. We're real lucky about where we live right now. Top three sources of revenue to the city of Hammond, $36 million a year in casino revenue, $33 million a year in property taxes, $10.5 million from water. Our two park bonds paid off of the city budget are for about $15 million in total. That's the total outstanding debt that we pay for off our budget. Our two park bonds, $15 million. And last but not least, the projected 2021 numbers to the Capital Improvement Board that we recently created, and I want to thank the City Council for doing that, $12 million. Mayor's Gaming, $2.8 million. 6 district councilmen each receive $467,000 each. The Rainy Day Fund gets $750,000, and the Gaming Advisory Committee gets $750,000. That's a summary of our city budget. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Would anybody like to ask any questions?
I know you guys are going through first and second. I know you just got the.
Mr. President?
Sure.
Councilman Emerson.
I just have a question about the council secretary. Is there a plan for what happens or what happens to our current secretary if she needs a vacation or something?
Yes, we're working with Clerk
there a
Golick's
plan
office
in the
with
future?
Carmen. When our council secretary is off sick or on vacation, Carmen takes her spot. In other words, the calls are forwarded to Carmen. That's the way it's been working, correct, Carmen?
Okay.
And she's been handling the secretarial duties up till now, and so far it's been working. Any other questions?
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions for the mayor on the budget?
Mr. President, could I talk about the water
Yes, Mayor.
proposal that's pending before the city council as well? It's important to understand a few things when we look at our water bill. I have a lot of my water bills right here, okay? I have a pool in my backyard, and the only reason I say that is because with my pool, I have a feeling I use a lot more water than typical Hammond resident. I have 5 people in the summer living in my house in a pool that probably leaks, and I'm constantly filling it, all right? My brother, who lives in Crown Point, told me a story last week, my brother Aaron. He said in like July, when it was hot, he was watering his lawn every single day. And he didn't realize that watering his lawn every single day is going to drive up his bill. He was watering like even when it was raining outside, right? He got a $400 bill for the month from his Crown Point water source, which is amazing to me because I look at my bill and I have a pool and I used an excessive amount of water in the month of August 2020. So much so that the Hammond Water Department thought we had a leak. They came out and walked around my house sure that we had a leak because I used so much water that month, okay? I guarantee you I used more water than my brother. Guarantee you. My water bill in the city of Hammond. Now keep in mind my brother Aaron pays $400 for this. My water bill for 2 months was $34. I guarantee you I use twice as much water as my brother. He pays $400 and I pay $34 for 2 months. So what's the difference? It's the same water. He gets water from Lake Michigan just like we do. It's filtered the same way. It just takes a different path to get to my brother's house than it does to get to ours. In Hammond in 1985, the mayor and the city council made a mistake. I love my dad, and he did make mistakes, just like I make mistakes. But the council and the mayor set water rates in 1985 at 44 cents for 1,000 gallons, with no growth quotient on the water rates. So since 1985, we've been paying 44 cents for 1,000 gallons of water with no growth. Here we are in 2020, 35 years later, and we're paying 44 cents for 1,000 gallons of water. So how much does my brother Aaron pay for 1,000 gallons of water in Crown Point? Close to $9 for 1,000 gallons. And we pay 44 cents in the city of Hammond. So a few years back, the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, the IURC, which we were under the powers of at the time. We've recently removed ourselves from the IURC a couple years back. The IURC does a survey of the Hammond Water Department 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they do a cost of how much does it cost to make 1,000 gallons of water. And they analyzed it, they gave us a big report. The final result of the IURC, it costs Hammond Water $1.11 per 1,000 gallons. It costs them $1.11 to make 1,000 gallons. How much do we charge residents of Hammond, residents of Munster, residents of Highland, residents of Whiting, residents of Griffith, residents of Dyer? We charge them 44 cents. And it costs us $1.11 to make that water. So every gallon we sell to any community in Indiana, we're losing money on. Every month, every week, every day. If the council and the mayor in 1985 had simply put in a growth quotient, let's say if it was even 2%, we decided to calculate that out. So let's take 44 cents per 1,000 gallons in 1985 and apply 2% inflation to it. If they just did something that simple, it would be over $1 right now, what we're paying, but we're still paying 44 cents. It's important to keep in mind that we make money by selling water in Illinois. When I say we, I'm talking the Hammond Mayor and the Hammond City Council. We make money selling water in Illinois. We get money from Chicago Heights, and it helps fund our city budget. It comes in as revenue. We just did it again today. We're talking about another $2.5 million of revenue coming from Illinois. Hammond Water Utility, right there on Columbia and 65th, does not have that revenue. The only revenue the utility can make is Indiana domestic sales. So basically, the water utilities run a lean machine. They're barely making it, as it stands right now, at 44 cents. That goes without saying that if they're barely keeping the plant working, they're barely keeping their bills paid, which is true when it comes to things like building a new water tower, when it comes to things like investing in the periodic maintenance and reinvesting in the plant at the electric plant, they don't have the money to do it. I don't need to tell you guys this. we're doing, the TIF project is doing the water tower right now on 165th and Columbia. That's our project. We're doing it because the water utility doesn't have the money to do it. So here we are, talking about a rate increase for the first time in 35 years, and what that number should be, and what that number should be so that the water utility is properly funded, and the water utility could start paying for like badly needed infrastructure. Scary things like this. If the main line, which is over 100 years old, that leaves the filtration plant and goes through Robertsdale, if that line fails, it's the equivalent of you having a massive heart attack on your main artery. If we lost that line, it would take us weeks to fix, untold millions of dollars to fix, and it would also put us out of water, Whiting, Highland, Dyer, Munster, Griffith, Chicago Heights, all their neighbors, Cal City and their neighbors. They're taking our water right now, these communities, the Indiana communities. We're selling them water for 44 cents and 1,000, and they're charging their community, their members of their community, $3 and $4. And they're taking that revenue and using it to rebuild their infrastructure. And we're not doing that in Hammond. And we're the most important part of the whole system. It's something that needs to be done. I'm the first mayor in 35 years that's bringing this issue to you. It's not right that we're paying $30 for 2 months of water when our neighbors, all of our neighbors, are paying hundreds of dollars a month for it. I'm not saying I think it's important for Hammond residents to have the lowest water rates in Indiana. And by far, we do right now. Even after this proposed rate increase, we still will. It's important. It's imperative. Should have been done a long time ago. So I'm standing before you now. I have studied this issue thoroughly. I've talked to a lot of you about it already, and I think it's absolutely imperative that we raise water rates in Hammond. It's time. We have to. We don't have a choice. And the money that is raised is going to go to the Hammond Water Department, the utility, so that they could start reinvesting. And when they're doing something like the 7,000 block of Schneider, which badly needs infrastructure work, and the capital improvement boards I know is going to prioritize this project because it's threatening the health and safety of the residents in that neighborhood. So when you're looking at that total reconstruction, Councilman Warple, instead of you bearing the brunt of the load like we used to have to do, we could say, okay, capital improvement board, it's a $2 million project, you're gonna pay $1 million. Hammond Sanitary District, your work is gonna be like $400,000. Hammond Water, your portion is gonna be like $600,000, and we'll be able to get these projects done, and we'll get more bang for our buck on the city side because our utilities, sanitary district's doing fine financially. We've helped fix them. Water needs our help. That's why I'm here. I have members of the Hammond Water Utility here today, the leadership team of the Hammond Water Utility, the board members of the Hammond Water Utility. I am well-versed in this issue myself. This is an emergency situation. The infrastructure that's needed in our system needs to be paid for, and the revenue in the utility is not there for it. So I'm standing before you, ready to answer any questions. And I realize we have time on this as well.
Does anybody have any questions for the mayor on this?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Torres.
Mayor, what's the average homeowner, again, cost is going to go up a month? Is that $6, $7?
My water bill would go up from, and this is with the pool, my total bill would go from $16.41 to $71. And we're going to go to monthly billing. So my bill, another thing we're doing, is go to, how many bills do you have? I pay the bills. I've never seen a bill every 2 months. So we're going to monthly billing in the Hammond Water Department. My total bill would go down, but I realize that it's times 2.
Okay.
But
So your bill will go up about $11?
more than that. My
What
bill
you
will go
said
up about $50 a month.
You said 60?
$16.41 to $70, basically.
Whoa, but you said 60.
Nope.
Because that's a question I get.
I know you will. But giving them water at 44 cents is a fiction. It's a fiction. It's not, it costs us twice as much of that to make it. When I took over as mayor, and I appreciate your concern, Councilman, this is not an easy issue. When I took over as mayor, there was, City of Hammond charged $5 for garbage collection. And I naively take over as mayor and I sit down and we do a cost of service study. And it came back and it said, Mayor, it costs us $13 a month to pick up your neighbor's garbage. And I'm like, well, why do we only charge $5? And at that time, I was told, because the residents will freak out if you charge them $13. Nobody wants to see their garbage rates double or triple. You can't do that, Mayor. You'll get voted out of office. We did it. And there was people that were pissed, but we charged them what it costs. Now it's like $16. That's what it costs us. And by the way, now that we do it that way, Hammond residents are employed picking up your garbage, and I look at my neighbors. Crown Point just got a new contract to get their garbage collection $20 a month. We still do it pretty competitively, right? But the thing is, when we sell people water at 44 cents, Councilman, that's not what it costs. It's a fiction. It's like, at the very least, they should be paying $1.20, which is 3 times higher. That's at the very least. That's what the IURC says. And they're not talking about doing maintenance and stuff like that. They're just talking, this is what it costs you right now. It's not an easy issue. I appreciate your concern, Councilman Torres, but it's a fiction that we give them that water so cheap. Like when I left my pool leaking and running, and it cost me $37, and it cost my brother $400, he's a lot closer to what it costs than we are.
Does anybody else have any questions?
President.
I heard Councilwoman Alexander.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So currently we are at 44 cents, correct?
Yes, ma'am. For 1,000 gallons.
For 1,000 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that we're proposing to jump to what per thousand?
$1.90.
$1.90?
Yes, ma'am. The IURC says it costs us $1.11. That's the minimum we could charge. We need to do maintenance in the Hammond Water Department. We need to fix up the water tanks. We need to fix up the main lines. We need to fix the filtration plant, stuff that hasn't been happening. That's the proposal, Councilwoman. And I mean, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but we turned in a budget and the water issue at the same time. They're sort of intertwined. So like, and I appreciate the council has the right to do anything they want. If you do though, this has ramifications on, one has ramifications on another. So if we adjust one, we have to adjust the other. I'm just pointing that out.
And this is going to not just reflect in our residents, this is also reflecting in the water that we're selling as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman. That's a great question. The contracts that we have with other communities, they get charged what it costs Hammond residents. So we're selling water to Munster. Munster gets charged 44 cents for 1,000 gallons. They're selling their water to their residents for, I don't want to make up quotes. You guys know off the top of your head? It'll take a second. I want to give you the right number. I can tell you the 44 cents we sell it is the right number. What are they selling it to their residents for?
The first 5,000 gallons is $3.13 per.
For 5,000 gallons, it's $3.13.
Per thousand.
Per thousand.
$3.13 per thousand.
Right, which is $2.65 per 1,000 gallons profit for Munster. They buy it for 44 cents and sell it for $3.13. So what are they doing with that? When you say, it doesn't sound like a lot of money. When you say $2.65 per 1,000 gallons, except for the fact that in a year, they're using 500 million gallons. And when you start calculating it out like that, you're talking about, so Munster makes millions of dollars off of Hammond Water. What are they doing with it? They're probably doing great things. I'm not alleging Munster's not doing great things. But if we made money off our water, we don't. We lose money. But if we made money off our water, we could fix up our system like Munster has as well. I guarantee you, Munster's water distribution system's in far better shape than Hammond's. And Hammond's is the most important out of everybody. Everybody should be concerned that the maintenance that we need to do is not happening like it should. But Munster residents are getting charged $2.65 per 1,000 gallons more than they're buying their water for.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
just a question.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever increase we approve, when it goes into effect, does that increase go into effect to all the cities we give water to, or do we have to wait till their contracts come up?
Great question, Councilman Kowinski. It goes into effect January 1st. Regardless of if their contract is not due or not. There's one community that needs to renew a contract with Hammond Water, that's Griffith. We hope that we can renew with Griffith. Griffith's contract will look different than Munster's. Munster's, if we do this rate increase, they'll pay $1.90 for every 1,000 gallons of water they use from Hammond Water, which is a significant amount of revenue increase to Hammond Water, which is good, right? Griffith, because they have to renegotiate a new contract, the max we could charge them is what Hammond residents pay plus 15%. So Griffith would pay 15% more than Munster residents would pay. But the long-winded answer to your question, Councilman Kowinski, is yes, it would go into effect January 1st. In fact, we've already put the communities on notice that we have this issue pending before the Hammond Council, and it's already passed the Hammond Water Department. So I appreciate you asking that question.
And that would be true of Illinois communities too?
Thank you, Councilman Mark. Another great question. Illinois communities are totally separate from this because we're talking about the utility, Councilman Kowinski. The Illinois water comes to us, the city government, and we use that for revenue in our budget. The water money that we're talking about is for the domestic utility. So it's Indiana residents only we're talking about in this case, Councilman Mark.
So, just so I'm clear, the rates of the customer communities in Indiana and the rates we're charging the residents brings us up to what it's costing us to produce, plus, like you said, with the infrastructure programs that...
I don't know what you're asking, Councilman. I'm trying to keep straight what you're saying. Could you rephrase it?
No, I just said that what you're saying is the rates the residents charge in the Indiana communities stays with the water department and covers the cost of what it costs to produce the water, correct?
The rates that we're paying right now,
And then it also...
they barely keep the lights on.
Yeah. And
They
then
literally are, we had a situation where water utility was using Calumet City revenue to help finance our operation. We're cleaning that up this year.
It's-
Because if we pass this rate increase, City Hammond, us, the water revenue from Cal City will come to us, okay? Which means Hammond H2O will be 100% domestic water only, okay? Now, God dang, I forgot where I was going with this. I apologize.
Now, my question basically was the stuff from Indiana and our customers stays with our water department for the infrastructure improvements
Yes, sir.
and the cost to produce the water, correct?
I remember where I was going with this. Cal City money was a little bit late coming into the water utility, and we were getting nervous about meeting payroll and stuff like that. Everything ended up fine, but the water utility is literally, they're making ends meet. I mean, think about it. They're living off 44 cents and all the water they're selling everywhere. And all the big money from Illinois comes to the city government because they can't take it as an Indiana utility.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
question for Mayor. Do we
Yes, sir.
anticipate losing any town or city customers for water
Great.
with this increase?
Great question. Could you look up the numbers for Indiana American Water, what they're selling it to Crown Point? That's our biggest competition. Thank you. Please write this down. For 5,000, you said? 1,500. For 1,500, they're selling to Crown Point for $13.20, Councilman Mark, which is like $8 for 1,000 gallons. That's our competition.
Well,
So if we go up to $1.90, that's the number we're talking about. If we go up to $1.90, we're talking millions in extra revenue for the city of Hammond, not from Hammond residents, from our customer communities as well. They're going to be paying significantly more to the city of Hammond, and we could use that money to fix up our system and make our system stronger. We have some old infrastructure in Hammond, and it's time to fix it. And if, like I said, I think we need to start thinking about our water revenue, the city of Hammond's water revenue, the Hammond Water Department's water revenue as our future. Gaming is nice, but gaming's yesterday. Water is forever. People are always going to be drinking water. 100 years from now, I don't know if they're going to be gambling, but if we hold on to this water revenue and we're smart about it, this could be Hammond's lifeline for the next 50, 60 years. But we need to fix it. We need it to operate the right way. But $10.5 million a year of revenue out of nothing gives you a little taste of what we could do. We could do better. And if we do really well in the future, we could have another filtration plant and make our footprint even bigger in Illinois because they're going to buy it from us because we're cheaper. And it's the same water. This is our future, guys. And I know there's a big ask. I know that. I know it's tough. I know our residents don't love to hear it, but I'm the heavy user of water in this room. I guarantee you I have 5 people living in my house and a pool, and the water department thought I had a leak, and my bill goes up $50 over a 2-month period. And I guarantee you, I realize percentage-wise that's a big percentage, but dollar-wise, and I realize I'm the heavy one. I bet you a typical senior house, we're talking $5 to $10 a month. And I realize a lot of people are close, but that's what we're talking about. It's a big percentage, but not a big number. And going back to Councilman Kowinski's point, we are the cheapest competitor, even if we pass a rate increase. Councilman Mark?
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
Mayor, you said that we charge the other cities 44 cents as the same as our residents. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am. Maybe
I don't-
plus 15%. Is that plus 15%? 44. Thank you. It was reconfirmed.
Plus what percent?
The maximum under the IURC we could charge is what we charge our residents plus 15%. But some communities don't even have the plus 15%, Councilwoman. They just have the same rate we have. And then they take our 44-cent water and they charge $2, $3, $4, $5 for the same water they got for 44 cents, which is millions of dollars for their budget. A lot of the same communities that criticize us, by the way, which is funny, we get criticized regularly for the city, the state of our budget. This is a way to help our budget. This is a way to lessen the reliance on gaming and make it straight. Everybody's doing what we don't. Everybody's doing what we don't. We give them cheap water and they multiply it by 8 and sell it to their residents and make millions. And we don't. If we want to fix our budget, we got to do stuff like this. This is how you do it.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be here next meeting also to answer all your
Councilwoman
questions.
Alexander.
Awesome. One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
How many cities do we sell water to?
Off the top of my head, we sell water to Whiting, of course, Hammond. We sell water to Griffith, to Highland, to Munster, to Dyer. Those are our Indiana customers. In Illinois, we sell water to Lansing, Calumet City, Chicago Heights, and the communities around Chicago Heights. The water that we sell in Illinois we're selling for like $3 for 1,000 gallons. The water we're selling in Indiana, we sell for 44 cents.
And what is our projected income with the increases?
The city of Hammond, nothing. $500,000 in increased pilot payments and help down the road from the water department. This isn't something that's going to help our budget. This is going to help the water department's budget. Increased pilot fees is $500,000, Councilwoman. I didn't mean to be brisk. And then the fact that when we want to do the 7,000 block of Schneider, we could approach the CEO of the water company and say, your portion's $500,000, and we know they have the money. That helps too. It helps us with our projects.
Just to clarify, pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Payment in lieu of taxes. It's government agencies that don't pay property taxes. You get pilot payments from them instead. We could do that with things like Purdue. We don't, but government like Port Authority does it, water, sanitary. Schools don't do it.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Tyler.
Yeah, Mayor, have we, can you reiterate, just to clarify the fact that you're saying that we can't charge any other city that we're selling water to more than what we charge our Hammond residents plus 15%, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely true.
Is there
Councilman Barry, could I clarify that? Indiana
Sure,
communities. In Illinois, we're not bound to those restrictions, but in Indiana, that's the case.
Okay. I guess my biggest question is, given that, is there a way for us to, like, who creates that law that we can't charge more than 50%?
It's our contract. It's state law, Councilman Barry. That's what I
State law,
figured.
okay.
Yes, sir. So we'd have to go to the legislature, but yeah, we don't really have that much success with legislative, especially when you're talking about increases. They really frown upon that. They would tell us we have the tools to do it ourselves, which is true.
And so I guess my follow-up question is, instead of going from, the 44 cent to the full $1.90, have we thought about doing a slow increase instead of jumping from, the lowest we're charging now to the highest rate that we would charge?
Well, we have a proposal from the water department, and that's the proposal that's pending before us. I'd like to point out that, if we're gonna start toying with this issue, like I said, it does have ramifications. It's true. So like, if we lowered that, then we'd have to lower cash projections in our budget. We would change the numbers in our budget. Well, that's something that's possible. And then I'd also like to point out that, I mean, at a minimum, we'd be tripling the rates, at a minimum, because the IURC said so, and I agree. We can't charge less than it costs to make. And that's probably $1.11 to $1.20 range. Like, we couldn't go lower than that. Can we? We're gonna raise rates and still lose money? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's a fiction. We're telling the residents, use water all you want. It doesn't cost us that much, but it does. And we are. I water my lawn in the rain. It's probably not smart to do, but it cost me probably 15 cents. It's harder to go downstairs and turn the sprinkler off than it costs money. So like, we don't have, they don't do that kind of stuff in Crown Point and other places because water to them is expensive. Water is so ridiculously cheap. It's actually bad for the environment, what we do, because we're wasteful, more wasteful than we should be. I understand what you're saying, Councilman. I don't recommend it personally, but if that's the will of the council, then we'll have to work together on this. But, I'm a pull off the Band-Aid in one swoop kind of guy.
Are there any further questions?
And, one more point I would like to point out, Councilman, Mr. President, is we know that we've been talking a lot about the pressures on gaming. We know we've been talking about that, and we do rely on gaming too much. It's true. This is a move that's going to get us lesser reliant on gaming. It's going to extend our gaming dollars even more because water and sanitary will be able to participate more with our capital projects. I know it's hard, but let's just keep in mind, I'm about the heaviest user that we're going to have to worry about. Let me talk to you about my business real quick. I have a business that uses lots of water also. My business goes from $19 for 2 months to $82 for 2 months, right? And then when you do it every month, it divides it by 2. But, I mean, it's not a lot of money at the end of the day. I realize that people are close, but at the end of the day, it's a big percentage, but it's a small number. And what the other communities are charging their residents is twice as high. By the way, that was one of the important things when we put this together. When we get to our rate, we're still the lowest in the state of Indiana. Still. We're way lower than everybody now. Even after the rate increase, we'll still be the cheapest water you can buy in Indiana. It's a fact. I'm sorry to drop this on you, but, it's a budget and pandemic and water increase. By the way, NIPSCO raises rates every single year, and nobody loves it, just like they don't love this, but they raise rates every single year. We haven't raised rates since 1985. I was in 10th grade, the last time Hammond residents had a water rate increase.
Are there any further questions?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
I'd like to ask Mayor.
Yes, sir.
When we re-up our contracts with the Indiana people that we have, do we increase our years to try to get them to use more during their new contracts?
Thank you, Councilman, for the question. We always pay real close attention when our contracts are coming up. Right now, we're negotiating a new contract with Griffith, Town of Griffith, through the Hammond Water Department. Town of Griffith will pay what Hammond residents pay, up to a maximum of 15% higher. These contracts, when they're entered into, are 30, 40-year contracts. So you got to get it right. And if you don't get it right, you got to live with the consequences for a long time. We learned that on sanitary litigation, contracts that were written in the 1960s that haunted us 50 years later. So I got really smart people working on this issue, Councilman Spitali, looking real close to make sure when each contract comes up that we're doing the best we can for Hammond residents, not just now, for 50 years from now. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
yes, sir.
Are there any further questions? Are there any further questions?
President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
I'm looking at my water bill now that I am a homeowner here in the city, and I do see the smaller portion of water versus sanitary and garbage. But my real question is, I get about you're saying that we can't charge 15% over, but the other cities that are buying water from us are charging their customers 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times the amount that we're even selling it to. How is that even fair for our city?
Good question. Thank you. We're considered a wholesaler in Indiana law, Councilwoman, and we're held to different standards because we're a wholesaler. Once the water turns into retail, there's different rules altogether, which is unfortunate for us. Believe me, I've actually even toyed with the idea of having the filtration plant be one company and the distribution section being another company. It doesn't work. We're wholesalers. And I appreciate your concern on this. We've looked at this. It's very frustrating. I agree. But basically, Indiana customers are pegged to what Hammond residents pay. And if we don't charge Hammond residents anything, everybody's smiling except for us because they're making all the money on their water. Our customer communities, they're all selling for much higher. What's town of Whiting? Could you look that up real quick? City of Whiting, excuse me. I mean, so we recently hooked up to Whiting about 10 years ago. We give them water at 44 cents. They sell it to their residents for 302. 7 times higher than when we sell it to them for. So the millions of dollars that are created out of that are used for improvements around Whiting. Like water main improvements, who knows? Pilot fees to the city. And by the way, so let's say the Whiting residents are paying $3-ish for 1,000 gallons. Hammond's raising it to $1.90, so this isn't going to impact Whiting residents. We're not going higher than 3 whatever. You know, Whiting's got to, you know, in this case, figure out how to squeeze $1 with their residents. So like if you live in Whiting, on one side of Atchison, you pay $3 for 1,000 gallons of water. If you live on the west side of the street in Hammond, you pay 44 cents. And it's the same exact water. Isn't that crazy?
Are there any further questions?
Mr. President, I'm sorry.
It's okay,
asking a lot of
Councilwoman.
questions. I just want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence with continuing to explain with these rate increases.
I understand 100%.
And that, are you saying that also that, I mean, I think you said it, but that the rate increase is going to be used to help us get the proper infrastructure throughout our city so that we don't have flooding issues, whatever else. I just really want to make sure that if there's going to be an increase, if we do decide on this increase, that the residents are really going to understand that it's going to the proper thing, not that it's just being an increase for no reason.
This impact on the city budget, Councilwoman, is minimal. On our budget, the one you're responsible for, the one I'm responsible for, the impact on Hammond, the utility itself, is going to be tremendous. And that utility is going to spend this money on capital improvements, so water line replacements. Now, we'll probably coordinate with them when we're doing city projects, so if we're knocking off 119th, you know, we may as well knock off the water lines while we're doing it as well, and water could pay their part. But the impact on us is very minimal. That money, Councilwoman, I lose sleep at night sometimes worrying about the state of our water system. And if something dramatic happened, how desperate things would become. If something happened in the middle of the summer when we're all using water like crazy, like right now, we don't use very much water. Our plant's probably only doing 35 million gallons today, right? But in the summer, in June and July, we're pushing that plant 65 million gallons. If something went wrong, it would suck our water tanks dry in 12 hours. And it like keeps me up at night. This is stuff that we need to be investing in, and we're not. But you know why? It's super expensive. The stuff we're talking about is going to cost us millions to do the stuff we need to do, but we have to. And by the way, it's smart for us to do it because this is a diamond. The fact that we own this water utility, and we're on the northwest corner of Indiana, and Chicago pays 10 times more than we pay for water, it's an opportunity for us to make money in Illinois. Like, we're lucky, but this is an asset we need to invest in, and that's why I'm here. I understand it's a big ask, and I understand there's a million questions. That's why I'm here, Councilwoman, so I don't mind answering your questions a bit.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure I'll have more by the next meeting.
I have no problem with that.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman?
just one final question.
Yes, sir.
With the repairs on that tank, 165th, is it finally going to get painted?
Yes, sir. There was the tank project through no fault of the city. We had a contractor come in and damage the tank. And when I say damage, they damaged the tip top of the tank. Like the heaviest, tallest part of the tank, like cocked. Almost like, it's like crooked. And to get that straight. They had to put a crane inside and lift it and straighten it all out. Cost us some money. We were actually suing the company that did the damage with a plaintiff's lawyer. Where's the plaintiff in this case? We're going to get our money back for that eventually, Councilman, but that slowed everything down. That tank will be painted by May, though. That was last estimate. Councilman Mark, is that still true? Mark? Yes. Thank you. May. All right. Done. By the way, I don't blame you a bit for asking. It's taking too long. But this last delay was not our fault, though, Councilman. So I apologize, Mr. President, for taking way too long. I promise you I'll be available for questions. I'll try to meet with the councilman individually, do whatever I have to do to explain this to you and to the residents. So thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank you. Just as a housekeeping matter, on Ordinance 2025, Exhibit A, once we introduce the ordinance, Exhibit A has to be amended, so there'll be a motion for an amendment. I've handed the two council people here present the amendment, so the rest of you, Susan has, Liz has copies of it in the council office that she will get to you, but there'll be an amendment to the Exhibit A of Ordinance 2025.
Mr. President, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
It was pointed out to me that I missed one thing, that the average Hammond resident, we know how much water the Hammond resident uses, which is 5,000 gallons a month. I was way higher than that. If you use 5,000 gallons per month, being an average Hammond resident, your monthly bill will go up $7.30. It's a big percentage, but that's what we're talking about, okay? My bill is exorbitantly larger than most people because of my pool and my kids, all right? But the average Hammond bill will go up $7.30. So thank you again, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 3, reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from September 28, 2020, and be placed on file, please.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 4, approval of claims.
Mr. President,
Councilman Rakos.
make a motion we pay claims, beginning with claim dated 10/1 of 2020 and ending with claims dated 10/7 of 2020. It'll be claim number 4617 through claim 4909 inclusive. The amount of $9,515,675.96.
Second.
Motion's been made to accept the claims as written by Councilman Rakos, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
motion to amend claim number 4904. Take out the claimant name Farrell Melissa and replace that with Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association, Inc.
Motion's been made to amend claim number 4904. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Kowinski, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Carmen, roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Venez,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Rakos,
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed to the amendment. Now on the motion I'll entertain a motion to accept the amended claims.
Alexander, Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Venez,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Rakos,
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show, claims passed, 9 in favor, claims as amended passed 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Item number 5, public hearings. We can do them all at one time, I guess. You gonna, Carmen?
2020, the City of Hammond, 2021 budget proposal. 2021, budget proposal for the Hammond redevelopment. 2022 is the 2021 budget proposal for the sanitary district of Hammond.
Does anybody wish to speak on these 3 items? Item number A, the City of Hammond budget proposal. Item number B, the Hammond redevelopment budget proposal. And item number C, the sanitary district budget proposal. Does anybody wish to speak? George.
George Stoyer, Robertsdale. This is the first I've heard today of the Hammond budget proposal being brought up to this meeting. It wasn't posted on the in the agenda and minutes, and neither here nor there. But can we get a public explanation of the differences, at least, of some basic differences between some of the, I guess, the finances of what we were dealing with this year, and maybe what's going to be the difference next year? Otherwise, I mean, we have no way to evaluate. I mean, get up here and talk about what? I mean, at least we've got an explanation somewhat on the water issue to satisfy some, critical questions. But, it's impossible to talk about, you're supposed to, we don't hear anything out of you guys scrutinizing or evaluating or analyzing some of the budget proposals submitted by Marty and the sanitary district. So, it's just like sitting here and just looking stupid because we don't know what's going on. I mean, like the $1.90 on the water. I mean, it's okay, fine. It's like he says somewhat. It's a $400 increase, 400% increase. Money-wise, it's a little different, but at least there's an argument there. So, I mean, it's like you just can't, you can appreciate, the relationships, but who can even talk to the budget? Nobody's saying anything about the sanitary district.
George, to answer your question, like I explained earlier, Gateway, in order to comply with the DLGF website, budget form number 3 has to be advertised 10 days in advance of its introduction. And it was advertised on October 2nd.
Oh, I'm sure it was advertised. Yeah. It's just not talked about. It's one thing to set out a whole bunch of numbers, but somebody's got to make sense out of them and draw out the various dimensions of cost and service. Cost of service, for one thing. We have no idea what cost of service is. I'm sure, hopefully, there was a study, but even if there is a study, it's only one study. It's not like going before the IURC and getting a contract. So you submit a cost of service study, and it can be scrutinized by professionals. We're not professionals. How are we supposed to scrutinize some of the costs of service submittals as the layman here? I mean, it's a joke.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Does anybody else wish to speak? Does anybody else wish to speak on these 3 items? Public hearings are now closed. Item number 6, communications. A is a transmittal letter that'll be entered into the communications, a transmittal of Economic Development Commission Resolution EDC 2020-01 to the Common Council of the City of Hammond. We all received it.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to add that to the communications to the minutes.
So move.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Vanez. Who was that seconded by?
Mary.
Seconded by Councilman Tyler. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. It'll be added to communications. Are there any further communications? Are there any further communications?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Tyler.
I just want to remind the public that the annual trunk and treat will take place on October 30th at 5 p.m. at the Hammond Sportsplex. And the Hammond Veteran Parade will take place on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other communications?
Mr. President.
Was that Councilwoman Alexander?
Yes, I usually do this under new and unfinished, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it now. Our current, COVID status for the city of Hammond, based off of the Lake County website, we definitely have some increases. So for 46320, we are up from the last meeting of 50 cases. 46327, an additional 36 new cases. 46323, an additional 60 cases. 46324, an additional 52, and 46394, additional 22 cases. I just want to continue to remind everyone to stay masked up, continue to social distance. I understand that the governor has put us in stage 5, but we still need to make sure we're getting ready to enter into flu season. Schools are talking about returning. We want to just make sure we continue to help keep our residents and our students and teachers and everyone safe.
Thank you. Is there any other communications?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
as I mentioned last time, but this is the last time before our next meeting, the Lake County Solid Waste Management District will be sponsoring a secured document shred event at 601 Conkey Street, Saturday, October 24th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You are allowed to bring in 4 grocery bags of secure documents, and I imagine paper bags. You give up those bags. Plastic bags will not be accepted, and you should have all metal clips, rubber bands, and binders removed. It's not open to businesses or organizations, but again, it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., Saturday, October 24th this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other communications?
Mr. President?
Was that Councilman Rakos?
It was. Yes, Hessville Crime Watch is this Thursday, October 16th at 7 p.m. at the Gene Shepherd Center. Also, Mayor's Night Out will be October 21st. That'll be at 6:30 at the Hess Elementary School, 3640 Orchard Drive.
Thank you. Are there any other communications?
Yes, Mr. President, sorry.
What was that?
I have one more, sorry. I just checked, I know there's been a ton of back and forth about the census, and there's been some communication that you can no longer complete it. I just checked the website and it's still up. So if you have not completed the census, I don't have our current completion rate, but anybody in the city, if you have not completed it, please do so as soon as possible, because I do believe that they will be closing the applications or the census over the next couple of days or so. So please complete it if you have not. Just go to 2020census.gov.
Thank you. Are there any other communications? Communications are now closed. Number 7, committee reports.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
yes, I would like to announce the upcoming Community and Crime Watch meetings. As Councilman Rakos stated, Thursday, October 15th, the Hessville Crime Watch will meet at the Gene Shepherd Center. That will begin at 7 p.m. The Whiting-Robertsdale Crime Watch will meet November 12th, 6:30 p.m. at Calumet College in room 200. And those are the only 2 that are meeting in person. On October 6th, the Hammond Police Department had a virtual Crime Watch meeting on the Hammond, Indiana Police Department Facebook page, and Kelly Kearney, Chief of Inspections, was our guest speaker, and we were able to get some statistics from some of the community policing officers. It's very likely that we're not going to be having any in-person meetings in the near distant future. So I invite everyone to tune in to the Hammond, Indiana Police Department Facebook page the next time we do have a virtual meeting. The next date has not been set yet. I know that it will be the beginning of November, but hopefully I'll have a date for you at the next meeting. And it's not necessary for you to have Zoom to participate in this meeting. You can log on to Facebook and you can make comments there. So I think there's been some confusion because some people don't have a Zoom account or have not logged on to Zoom. So please tune in, get some information about your neighborhood and some safety tips for the safety of you and your family and your neighbors, because community is not just about me, it's about us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there any other committee reports? Just as a side note, I stated it earlier, but as the council as a whole, we picked our selections for the Gaming Advisory Committee and the Capital Improvement Board. The Capital Improvement Board, they were voted on by the council members, and it was Councilman Spitali, Councilwoman Venez, and Councilman Tyler. And the Gaming Advisory Committee, there were 5 names submitted, and we have 5 appointments, correct?
Yes, sir. Mr. President?
Yes.
Since you announced the council appointees, I was going to announce the city appointees for the Capital Improvement Board also. The chairman under the ordinance is Dean Button. I've agreed to appoint Hammond City Controller Megan Flores as one of my appointees to that board. The Assistant Superintendent of the Hammond Water Department, Jaime Prieto, will be my second appointee to that board. And my third appointee will be the head of the Hammond Port Authority, Mylan Krasinski, for our appointments. I think that's 7 great members. So I want to thank the council for putting 3 great people on there. And I think they'll work well with the people I put on, and I wish them luck. So thank you.
Just for the record, the council has decided that these are the remainder of 2020 and 2021
Yes, sir.
appointments.
I agree with you. Ours as well.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mayor, I know the question was asked, do we have an idea when the first time the board will meet?
I'll have Dean follow that up as chairman of the board, but
It'll be advertised for the public to come?
the public is encouraged to attend. It'll be in this room. It'll be on Go Hammond TV. It'll be opposite of the Hammond Council meetings. Now, the question is, are they going to be able to get it ready for next week, or are we going to have to wait 2 more weeks? That's a question I'm not sure of, so I'll have to punt on that issue until I know more. I'll talk to Dean tomorrow. And Phil, do you know anything about that? November? Okay. So it does not appear that it's next week. So, okay, I'm sure Dean will be in touch with your appointees real soon. Thank you.
And then the Gaming Advisory Committee, there were only 5 names submitted, and we have 5 appointments. So the Gaming Advisory Committee, the council appointments are Dan Spitali, Councilman Spitali, Councilwoman Venez, Councilwoman Alexander, Councilman Torres, and Councilman Kowinski's put in for Melissa Farrell. So without objection, I'll make these our, as long as no one has an objection, since these were the only 5 names submitted, I'll make these our appointments to the Gaming Advisory Committee. Is there any objection? Okay, those will be our Gaming Advisory Committee appointments.
Mr. President?
Mayor, I'm sorry.
To members of the public that are interested in serving on this board, it's the Gaming Advisory Committee. They're slated to receive, assuming 2021 is not a pandemic year and things operate relatively normal, this committee is going to have $70,000 allotted to it under the formula we created, and they're going to use that $770,000 for not-for-profits, mostly from Hammond, but from all over Northwest Indiana. Some of them are like the food bank is not a Hammond organization, but it helps Hammond residents. So some organizations aren't headquartered in Hammond, but that's the purpose of this committee. So if you're interested in serving, I'd ask that you please forward your resume to my Chief of Staff, Phil Talon, who is going to be the chairman of that committee. It's Phil plus 5 appointees by me, plus 5 appointees by the council, and it appears that you've filled your 5 already. So if you're interested in serving, please contact Phil Talon. We're trying to make it so that we have equal representation citywide, so that every district is represented. So we want to keep that in mind as well. So thank you, Mr. President.
Moving on, ordinance, third reading and final passage. Carmen. 2019, right? Yeah.
2019, an ordinance reclassifying certain lands in the city of Hammond for zoning purposes and amending ordinance number 8514, an ordinance establishing a zoning plan for the city of Hammond, including the regulations and maps to administer the zoning plan in order to provide for orderly growth and development within the city, all in accordance with the comprehensive land use plan as amended for property commonly known as 1224 177th Street.
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
I move for final passage of ordinance number 2019 with intent to consider.
Motion's been made for final passage and adoption of ordinance 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Emerson, seconded by Councilman Spitali, correct?
Correct.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
as I mentioned at the last meeting, this is a resident in Hammond who is wanting to rezone his property to R1 from S2. This also happens to be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, single-family home in Hammond, built in 1890, and it does need some work, but his problem was putting up a privacy fence, finding out it was zoned much like Optimus Park, which abuts it, and so that is the primary reason for the zoning change. And it was approved, was affirmed by the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Carmen, roll call.
Alexander? Spitali?
Yes.
Vines?
Yes.
Kalwinski?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Emerson?
Yes.
Rakos?
Yes.
Warple?
Yes, let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed. The ordinance passes. That was the only ordinance we had on third reading and final passage, so moving on into item number 9, introduction of ordinances.
2020, City of Hammond 2021 Budget Proposal.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
I move for first and second reading of 2020, refer to council as a whole on Monday, October 19th at 5:30 p.m.
Motion's been made to move to council as a whole, pass on first and second reading, move to council as a whole on October 19th, Monday at 5:30 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Vines, seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Torres.
I feel a bit like George over there. In the past, councilmen have gotten briefed on budgets, and this time we didn't. Friday, I received it, I'm sure everybody else did. And there's a lot of things I've got a lot of questions on. And In the past, we were briefed by the controller, and also we got to meet with the department heads to see if we had individual questions. And I personally missed that. Being first and second reading, I'm going to reluctantly vote for this, but I hope to get a better understanding of this budget on the 19th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Torres, like I stated earlier, we're going to hold the council as a whole meeting. I'll be here. And whoever wants to come to the council chambers can be here, but we'll do it by Zoom too. So, are you requesting? What are you requesting?
I'm going to be here. I was assuming the meeting was going to be here, but I'm going to be here. Yes. I don't like Zoom. So are you going to be here?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
My question is, are you requesting anything, or I mean,
No, not right now. I'm going to put down, I'm going to list a whole bunch of questions, and I'll have them at that time.
so the public, just like normal, would be the next Monday, 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I want to echo the sentiments of Councilman Torres, and I think one thing I would want to request is that if we can have the controller and maybe the department heads who have submitted their budgets to us at that meeting on Monday the 19th to discuss their budgets with us and answer questions that we might have, if that could be possible, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilman Tyler.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Venez.
I guess I don't know quite how to ask it. In the past, we had budget hearings. We'd come here on a Saturday morning from 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning until noon, and each of the department heads would come here and we would ask whatever questions we had of them. In my opinion, that particular way of doing things was pretty much a waste of time, because everybody would get up and say, well, we've got, we're level from last year. We don't have any increases. We had a reduction here. And there weren't substantive questions that were asked. So I guess my question is, Councilman Torres, Councilman Tyler, do you want department heads here? Do we want to compile a list of questions that we have of each department head? Because their time is just as valuable as ours is, not to minimize the whole budget process, but if we have questions, I have questions, I call somebody. So I don't know what the objective is here.
Councilwoman Venez, you are correct. In the past, we had that Saturday session, whatever you want to call it, and 2 out of the 3 I attended lasted under 40 minutes. And we decided as a council as a whole that to have the department head stand up in front of us and say, do you guys have any questions? And one councilman said, what's your employees' names and what do they make, that was out of line. I guess and Mayor, you want to speak first? I mean, I guess the question is do we go back to that Saturday meeting where we spend 45 minutes asking people who works for them?
Well, excuse me, Mr. President. I would just like, a substantive conversation, if that's what everyone is looking for. To me, they were just a waste of everyone's time, and like I said, not to minimize the whole process at all. We all have questions, but we know who to ask, too.
Mr. President,
Mayor?
I'll do, my staff will be anywhere you want us to be. If it's a Saturday meeting, we'll be there. If it's a meeting before the meeting, we'll be there, like always. Councilman, I know, Councilman Tyler, this is your first budget. My department heads know they'll be there whenever, and if it's Saturday, we've always done, we'll be there. And if we're not going to do Saturday and you want them to be there another day, they'll be there also. And we didn't just pick numbers out of a hat. I will remind you that this budget's 2.3% lighter than last year's budget, and 21 positions eliminated through lots of meetings between us and department heads, lots of analysis on how we run things. So it's not like we just threw a dart at a dartboard and came up with these numbers, you know? So obviously, whatever route you choose, if it's Saturday or if it's next Monday or whatever, we'll be there. My staff will be there. And we'll be ready to answer questions like we were today. And I'm a little frustrated to hear Councilman Torres say that you have questions and no answers. You know, Councilman, I don't know why there was a miscommunication between you and my office, but you were scheduled to be at a lunch today where we talked about the budget for an hour and a half, and you weren't there. I don't know if it's my staff's fault or if it's your fault. That's a fact. So like to hear you complain about not hearing about the budget when you missed an appointment where we were talking about the budget is beyond frustrating for me.
The reason I missed your appointment is because I was never notified.
Okay. And I guess that's my fault then, Councilman, but that's fine. I wish you would have been there.
Didn't know about it? How
Okay.
could I be there?
Okay. No problem, Councilman.
I would have gladly been there because I do have a lot of questions.
Good.
Mr.
Councilwoman Vines.
I've been through the budget process now for 9 years. And every year, I go through the budget line item by line item and compare it to last year. This year, included in our budget, we have 2020 to 2021 comparison that we can see exactly where the changes have been made. Like I say, this is a big budget. I am not minimizing it at all, but it takes a lot of work, certainly on Megan's part and all of the department heads. And for us to come here with a book and say, well, I don't understand it, that's not quite fair.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
I'm going to echo the sentiments of two of my colleagues. Well, at least Councilman Tyler. We are new here. And if we're having a meeting on Monday, it's just so we can definitely get an understanding what all this entails. I understand you all have been here previously. You understand it. Yes, we can set up meetings after meetings after meetings, but there's another thing when we're all sitting together to actually talk about it and get an understanding. Because like I said, if I look at this now, I've been looking at it. I see there's a comparison of 2020 and 2021, but to get an actual understanding how this budget works so that we can still do our due diligence as new council people, don't kind of like dilute that as if we're not new. We're new. We want to understand. That's why we're asking questions, and we want to pose the right questions. So to say you've been through a meeting, you've done this before, I think is irrelevant to the fact that you have two new council people on this council, and we want to get an understanding. Yes, we can set up the meeting with Megan, but at the same time, when we can have everybody there and they can give us an actual explanation themselves, I don't think that's too far-reaching when you have two new people.
Are you talking to me or are you talking to somebody else? Because I'm willing to do whatever.
I wasn't referring to you, Mayor. I was
Okay,
actually
thank you.
referring to
Sorry.
Councilman.
I apologize then. I'm willing to do
not-
whatever.
I'm
You
like-
guys tell us where to be. My
Yeah.
staff and my controller and myself and my chief of staff will be there. You tell us where to go.
We can,
I don't think it's too much to ask for my staff to show up during a budget hearing. I'll be there. I don't want this related to us at all, like we don't want to be there. I'll be wherever you tell me to be. My staff will be wherever you tell me to be. I agree with the two new council people. This is their first budget. If we have budget hearings, we'll be there. If it's on Saturday, we'll be there. If it's on Monday, we'll be there. Just tell me where to be. We'll be there.
So what's the council's pleasure? I'm not downplaying it at all. I just know what it was when I first got on the council, and it turned into, give me the list of your employees, what they make, and all their names and
You're
addresses where
talking,
they live.
all due respect, Mr. President, that person's no longer on the
Yeah.
council, right? We do have new council people, and they're
Right.
eager, and they're diligent, and they want to follow up with questions. I don't think I'm not trying to minimize that, and we're talking about.
I'm not minimizing it
We're talking
either.
about history, though.
Yeah.
That person.
My question is, would you guys like to do it on the Saturday then, this coming Saturday? When do you guys want to do it?
Saturday, it can be a Monday, it doesn't matter to me, I just want to be able to get a total understanding of what this is before we make a final decision, and have an actual understanding, so if someone asks us, we can actually explain it ourselves as well.
That's fine. I mean, do you guys want to stick with Councilwoman Vanessa's proposal on Monday, the 19th at 5:30?
Yes.
If that works for, Mr. President, sorry, if that works for the controller.
We'll be here.
And the rest of the department heads, then yes.
saying
let's keep it
19th?
Monday at 5:30.
We'll be here, Councilman Tyler.
All right, thanks.
So I can, even though we're going to introduce these on first and second reading separately, I can assume this will pertain to all the way from 2020 to 2025, correct?
Correct.
So we don't have to, they'll all be the same motion made on them,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman
you
Torres?
said there was one motion to cover all of these?
No, I'm just saying that the motion will be made, but it'll cover all of these on that hearing that day then.
Okay.
Okay? Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Item B.
2021, the 2021 budget proposal for the Hammond redevelopment.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
yes, I move for first and second reading of 2021, refer to council as a whole on Monday, October 19th at 5:30 PM.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Venez. Council as a, first and second reading, council as a whole at 5:30 PM on November 19th, seconded by Councilman Tyler. Is there any discussion?
For sure.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mayor?
the Planning Commission's supposed to be in this room on the 19th at 6 PM for a meeting. We just found out. Thankfully, somebody texted us before you guys did this. Planning Commission in this room on the 19th. Now, you could bump them, I guess. Is there anything going at the Planning Commission where this is obviously more important?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I think I got an email this earlier today that the Plan Commission meeting is canceled for next week.
Yes,
good.
right here.
Okay,
It's canceled.
good news. Thank you, Councilman Tyler. Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
2022, the 2021 budget proposal for the sanitary district of Hammond.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
I move for first and second reading of 2022, refer to council as a whole with a committee meeting on Monday, October 19th at 5:30 PM.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Venez for the same time and date, Monday, October 19th at 5:30 PM, council as a whole. Seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
2023, an ordinance fixing the salaries and wages of all city officials and employees of the city of Hammond, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
I move for first and second reading of 2024, refer to council as a whole with a committee meeting on Monday, October 19th at 5:30 PM.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Venez, seconded by Councilman Spitali, with the committee hearing in front of council as a whole on October 19th at 5:30 PM. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, 2024 police and fire. I just want to point out of what
We're on 2023, right?
No,
did
that
you
was
misread it?
24.
No, we're on 2024.
24, okay.
2023.
2023.
He's on 2023. You're talking about 2024.
Well, you said 2024.
Did I make a mistake? I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll wait.
I made a mistake? Okay, so I'm sorry. Then that's 2023, first and second reading. Refer to council as a whole with a committee meeting on Monday, October 19th at 5:30 PM.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
2024, an ordinance fixing the salaries and wages of all policemen and firemen of the city of Hammond, Indiana.
Alrighty, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vines.
Yes, now I'll do it right. I move for first and second reading of 2024, refer to council as a whole with a committee meeting on Monday, October 19th at 5:30 PM.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Vines, seconded by Councilman Torres. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mayor.
I just wanted to update the council real quick. I'm not sure if this is where Councilman Torres was going, but we're in discussions, in negotiations with police and fire right now. And in police, we have a verbal agreement. I think it's getting memorialized as we speak. Is that a fair statement? Four-year agreement, which would have 0% pay raises this year, next year, 1% pay raise in the third year, 1% pay raise in the fourth year. We made changes to the pension of the police officers that's going to cost the city a little bit more each year, but what it's going to do is it's going to encourage our police officers, our senior police officers, our most expensive police officers, our police officers with 6 weeks of vacation each, encourage them to retire and replaced with new police officers that are a lot cheaper. I think is a smart move on our part. It's also good for the quality of life of our retiring Hammond police officers. But we reached a deal with them, and they're aware that part of that deal also had us reducing our staffing, which I talked about earlier. Fire department, we're negotiating same issues. It's a little bit more complicated because the fire department has manning requirements in their contract, which cost us money. Like, they require 40 firefighters a shift per day, and we've typically only have 38 firefighters available per day, which means just about every single day, we're filling 2 firefighter positions with firefighters that cost time and a half, double time on holidays. This is $1 million a year problem for the city of Hammond. It's costing us $750,000 to $1 million a year, those 2 extra spots. So with the fire department, they want us to do pension changes that'll increase our quality of life tremendously. It'll also allow a lot of turnover in the fire department, but doing that costs us a lot of money. We're asking them to allow us to lower that 40 firefighters per day down to 38, which would save the city of Hammond significant amounts of money in overtime every year. We're sort of stuck at that point right now. If fire doesn't choose our offer, I made an offer that keeps them at 40 per day and gives them guaranteed pay raises every year. So they have 2 proposals that they're looking at currently. That's the latest offer with the fire department. So they have 2 proposals, one with the pension adjustment, and their pay raises would be similar to what the police raises are, which is 0% this year. And if they don't take that, they'll get probably the same raise as the city employees, I'd imagine, and they'd be at 40 firefighters a day. So they have to decide what's better for them, to have a guaranteed 40 firefighters a day with overtime resulting every year, or better pensions when they retire. That's sort of a debate that's going on in the Hammond Fire Department right now. But I didn't know where you were going, Councilman Torres, so I wanted to point that out.
Mayor, when does this new contract take effect?
January 1st, Councilman.
Okay, for 2021?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
4 years.
Okay, what I wanted to point out is that a probationary fireman starts out at $48,408. A probationary patrol officer starts out at $46,504, and that's $1,904 difference. I don't know if that was, well, I've been bringing this up every year in the budget. But a starting patrolman, they're both valuable departments for public safety, we know that. But a patrolman should start the same thing as a fireman. And that's not taking anything from the firemen. They deserve every penny they get. But $1,904, that's, I hope that's negotiated again if, in your new contract, if for some reason that was missed.
Thank you, Councilman. I was at a couple of the meetings, but quite frankly, my negotiating team and police, they didn't bring this, the FOP didn't bring this issue up once. They were very laser focused on the pension. That was their main goal, is getting pension relief, and that, I don't believe that issue ever came up once. Being honest, I'm not saying it's not important, Councilman, but when they had to choose what was important to them, and fire and police wanted that pension bad, and it was a unanimous vote. They're very happy with the contract, so I don't know if we should be giving away more than, because we are, by the way, the pension adjustment we did to police is going to significantly increase the quality of life for retiring Hammond police officers.
All right.
Like, we're talking like
This is
$10,000
not
a year.
the pension, though. This is just a starting salary.
I know.
Okay. But everything else is almost equal, so
Yes, sir. I agree.
wanted to point that out.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Councilman Torres.
All right.
And then I wanted to update the council on the status of the police and fire negotiations. I think for the most part, it's going very well. With police, it was unanimous. With fire, they have two real good offers on their table. If it's manpower that they want to protect, they have an offer that treats them fair. And if they want to increase the pension like they're asking, they have an offer on them that's fair. And it's a very similar offer that was unanimously accepted by the police. So thank you very much.
The power to negotiate contracts lies strictly with the executive of the city, and I don't think we should be getting involved as a council in contract negotiations.
We can get involved in the salary. We have the power to increase the salary.
Is there any further discussion?
Councilman Torres is right. I'm not asking you guys to give away money. He is right. You do have the issue with fire and police, but, you know, when you're talking about a patrolman, there's, I don't know, 70 of them. So every, you know, adjustment you make in salary is times 70. And with overtime, it's times 70 plus a half. And, I mean, the police negotiated a fair contract and voted unanimously to accept it. You know, if you gave them free money, I'm sure they'd be happy with it. But they negotiated a fair contract, and I think it's a very fair contract personally. So I appreciate the councilman bringing it up, though. As a retired Hammond police officer, I understand how important that is to you. I'm not trying to minimize it, Councilman. So,
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
2025, an ordinance amending the schedule of rates and charges for water services furnished by the Hammond Water Works Department.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
yes, I move for first and second reading of 2025, refer to council as a whole, with a meeting on October 19th, Monday, at 5:30 p.m. We also need to schedule, it's my understanding, a public hearing on October 26th for 2025.
Motion's been made for first and second reading with council as a whole. Yeah, the motion's been made to, for first and second reading, for a public hearing, I'm sorry, for council as a whole on October 19th at 5:30 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Vines, seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vines.
I would like to amend in Exhibit A that we all received.
Motion's been made to amend in Exhibit A into the ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Councilman Tyler?
Yes.
Rickles.
Okay, Councilman Rakos. Motion's been made and seconded to amend in Exhibit A. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Mr. President,
Mayor?
keep in mind, this resolution was passed by the Hammond Water Board and is pending before you as a result of your supervisory authority. But this is the rate that was passed by the Water Board. Obviously, any changes probably would have to go back to water to be reaffirmed, stuff like that. So this is what was passed. When was it passed at the Water Board? Last week? Last week's meeting, and is pending before the Hammond City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Is there any discussion on the amendment? Carmen, roll call.
Alexander? Alexander?
Yes.
Spitali?
Yes.
Vines?
Yes.
Kalwinski?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Emerson?
Yes.
Rakos?
Yes.
Warple?
Yes, let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed to the amended ordinance. Carmen, now is there any discussion on the amended ordinance? Is there any discussion on the amended ordinance? Carmen, roll call on the amended ordinance.
Alexander?
Yes.
I think that was it.
Vitale?
Yes.
Vines?
Yes.
Kalwinski?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Emerson?
Yes.
Rakos?
Yes.
Warple?
Yes. Let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Introduction of ordinances, item G.
2026, an ordinance creating a new fund, Fund Number 260, for FY 2021 Lake County Drunk Driving Task Force grant funds.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
the first and second reading, refer to council as a whole, with the committee meeting set for October 26th at 5:30.
Motion's been made for council as a whole with the committee hearing council as a whole on 10/26 at 5:30.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Item H.
2027, an ordinance to amend Ordinance 7661, also known as Sections 160.01, 160.02, 160.03, and 160.99 of the Hammond Municipal Code as it pertains to the General Maintenance Code and its application to all properties within the city of Hammond.
Sponsored by Councilman Rakos.
Mr. President,
Councilman Rakos.
move to pass ordinance 2027 on first and second reading for a final vote at our next meeting on the 26th.
Motion's been made for first and second reading and a final vote at the next meeting on October 26th. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. President,
Motion's been made for first and second reading, sponsored by Councilman Rakos, seconded by Councilwoman Vines. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
Councilman Rakos.
Yes. This is just a cleanup ordinance from an ordinance we filed last year regarding the inspections department and how they trying to get each particular kind of property evaluated basically the same way. And this is just a cleanup ordinance from last year.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item I.
2028, an ordinance amending ordinances number 9461 and 9405, being an ordinance amending ordinance 8514 for an amendment to Title XXIX, overlay zoning districts to establish new provisions for development within the Oxbow Landing overlay zoning district.
Petition by Hammond Planning Commission, and sponsored by Councilman Spitali.
And Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
go through first and second reading, refer to council as a whole, with a intent to consider, with the committee meeting set for October 26th at 5:30.
Motion's been made, council as a whole. Committee hearing on 10/26 at 5:30 and that is with an intent to consider also on the next meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilman Tyler. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That concludes the introduction of ordinances. Item number 10, resolutions. There are none. Item number 11, new and unfinished business. The intent to consider is no longer necessary since the ordinance passed earlier, ordinance number 2019. So does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
I just have a question. With regard to the council as a whole meetings on October 19th, are all of the department heads going to be expected to be in attendance to answer any questions? And is this meeting going to be in person or via Zoom?
It was my understanding when the motion was made that there was a request made for the department heads, and I will be here for the meeting so the public can attend. But the meeting will be on Zoom too. I'm assuming, just like we're doing these meetings.
Okay.
Mayor?
Mr. President, my department's heads will be present in here. It's easier. We've been working in City Hall since May, so for us to show up, we'll just keep our masks on, and this is a big enough room for all of us.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Venez.
I'd like then an email letter sent to all the department heads advising them of the meeting on October 19th at 5:30 PM and ask for their participation, whether it be in person or Zoom. I personally think we should all be here for that, just my opinion.
Carmen, with the advertisement for that, can we see to it that a letter is sent to all department heads? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilman Torres.
okay, I would like to thank the mayor for appointing me to the Capital Improvement Committee. I agree that the district should be represented in that, so since my colleagues didn't appoint me, thank you for appointing me. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Torres, that was the gaming distribution. Oh, I gotta find it now. The Capital Improvement Board, which nominations were made and voted on. The Capital Improvement Board was Councilman Spitali, Councilwoman Venez, and Councilman Tyler. The Gaming Advisory Committee, which is the nonprofits, that was Councilman Spitali, Councilwoman Venez, Councilman Alexander, yourself, and Melissa Farrell.
Okay, but I'm talking about the capital improvement. The mayor just announced that he appointed me for his election for the administrative side, executive side. Right?
Mayor?
I love you, Councilman Torres, but I announced that Dean Button is chairman, and I appointed Jaime Prieto, the assistant executive of the Hammond Water Department. I appointed Megan Flores, the Hammond City Controller, and I appointed Mylan Krasinski. I don't know if I mispronounced Councilman Torres. I'm not trying to disrespect you.
Okay, I thought I heard my name.
I apologize, sir. I must have mumbled.
Okay, no problem then.
Is there any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Torres.
I noticed in the council budget that it was mentioned before, we lost a secretary, one that I especially worked a couple of years to get. And I know the standing is that the city clerk will send somebody in case she needs a day off or vacation or holiday off or whatever. I personally don't like that. We are independent elected office with the right to hire our people and keep our people. There have been times when various elected offices are some kind of tiff. I can remember the clerk and the court at one time having a tiff and hardly spoke to each other. I can remember the consul and the executive, the mayor's office being at disagreements. So it probably won't happen under this administration, but I hate to put ourselves dependent on another elected office, and we're the one that's supposed to set the budget. And if we can't find money for another employee, well, thank you, Mr. President.
Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business? Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business? New and unfinished business is closed. Public expression, George Stoya.
George Stoyer, Robert Still. Yeah, to pick up where I kind of left off, I didn't have a chance to think everything through, but for example, you mentioned that it was on Gateway and all this other stuff. I got to tell you, that's a bit much, because I don't know anybody, other than if there's something that they're directed to go, that just kind of gets up in the morning and rather than look at the New York Times or the Northwest Indiana Times, says, oh, I'm going to check out Gateway, and look down at the DGL or DLGF and see what's happening. That's just not realistic. And you know, what it reflects more than anything else is the people out here that you're supposedly representing. You know, it seems like it's become adversarial. You know, if we say something, if we ask something that, you know, that, I don't know, you guys take umbrage at it or something, and suddenly it's an us v them. You know, kind of policemen kind of exhibit that. You always hear when you get around them and drink with them a couple of times. You know, say, oh, it's an us and them. It's like they collect together in a group, and it's, you know, they're looking out at the world. They confront the world, you know, as I guess in some sort of heroic fashion. But the point is, you guys are supposed to be representing us. Yeah, you got your official authority, but bear in mind, it is authority. That's power derived. That's derivative power from us, the people that elect you. And granted, you can say, yeah, well, if you don't like us, blah, 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 you can just, you know, don't vote for us or whatever, and, you know, deal with it, Stoya. But the point is, it doesn't have to be adversarial. We do have a right to know, like you've been discussing about having more discussions about the budget and all that stuff. Not one mention about the public. How are we supposed to know what you discuss? Are we invited to this meeting on the 19th? Are we invited to this powwow? Or do we just kind of like hope for the best? Is that how it works now? We're the last to know? Because you guys are bosses. You're not representatives, you're bosses now? Is that how it works? Granted, you have some authority, no denying that. What about letting us know what's going on so we can evaluate our representatives and see what's going on, maybe understand, maybe, hey, who knows, we might even have something to contribute. I know you guys don't believe that, but, you know, because you guys know it all. You guys got the money to hire the experts. You know, all we have is, you know, get online, maybe do some Googling, you know, something like that. We don't have money for experts. I was told once when I complained about the water board's, what's the word, withdrawal from the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, the lawyer, Sean, I think it was Levinson's her last name, said, well, you can always take it up and get a lawyer, George, if you don't like it. Really? And then, are you serious? That's what she told me, yeah. In addition to the lawyer, mind you, maybe $100, $200 an hour, I'd have to hire engineers, experts in all kinds of, I'd have to hire an accountant, oh yeah, sure. And that's what we're looking at here when you're sitting back there, in the gallery like me. This is supposed to be representative government. I'm sorry if you don't always like me, too bad. I'm sorry if I speak up and it rubs you the wrong way. You deal with it.
Carmen,
May I?
can I clarify, did I not tell you that that meeting was going to be advertised to the public? That notification is going to be sent? Notification for the meeting with the department heads. Listening's a skill, and you heard me, correct? Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Does anybody else have any further public comment? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion's been made. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.